What's up guys, Jay's 2 cents here. We're going to talk about some of the news that came out of AMD's camp at Computex 2021. We're obviously late to this one, but that's fine. We got a chance to kind of see how some people were reacting to this. One of the things that NVIDIA has always been really known for about the benefits of going with NVIDIA is the fact that you get the amazing DLSS, which is deep learning super sampling, or AI controlled upscaling to give you better performance and tricking you to think you're actually rendering a game at higher resolutions. Well, AMD has actually got their technology now they've talked about, and we're going to kind of do a talking head piece about that today.
This video is sponsored by Micro Center and their custom PC builder. Use the custom PC builder to plan your next build, and when parts are added to your cart and in-store pickup is selected, you'll have the option for a Micro Center technician to fully build your PC for an extra fee. And if the order is placed at least 4 hours before closing, you can enjoy your new PC the very same day. Get the best prices and parts selection at any of Micro Center's 25 locations across the United States, and right now my viewers can get a free pair of wireless headphones while supplies last, in-store only. To see everything that Micro Center has to offer and to learn more about this limited time free headphone giveaway, click the link in the description below.
So today we're going to be talking about graphics cards and stuff and some new tech coming out of AMD that's a software level thing, not a hardware level thing. We've got a major giveaway going on right now. You've probably already heard about it, and we're going to keep talking about it. So it's a worldwide complete PC upgrade that's got Intel i9. It's got a 3090. If you guys want that and you want to know how to enter, then look at the link down below, and you guys will learn everything you need to know about it. So a little bit of a history lesson here to kind of understand DLSS for NVIDIA, or what's being called Fidelity FX or FSR. Fidelity FX is just a sharpening that was with AMD, but now they have FSR, which is Fidelity FX Super Resolution. These are super sampling techniques, which means you can take the image and all pixels are square. And to make a round object, you've obviously got to create triangles and such, which are still gonna give you jagged edges when it comes to like radiuses and stuff. So super sampling came in where it's kind of a technology that was designed to sort of smoothen those edges and such. But every time you do that, it's a filter that has to apply itself and then redraw an image multiple times before that image is actually displayed to you. And by doing that, you slow down your FPS, you increase your latency or your frame pacing, which gives you the performance hit. And then when you see like MSAA 2x, 4x, 8x, that's basically the amount of times it's refiltering that image to make it sharper and cleaner. Well, over the years, they found more efficient ways of doing that. You got FXAA, you got CMAA, MSAA. There's so many different ones, I can't even name them all anymore. But what's started to happen with NVIDIA's introduction of DLSS, which is deep learning super sampling, they started to do it on a hardware level, specifically starting with their 20 series cards by utilizing the tensor cores. I guess technically the cards before that, forgot what they were actually called. The Titan, nobody gave a crap because it wasn't a gaming card, but whatever. It had the first generation tensor cores in it. We're now up to third generation tensor core when it comes to the 30 series graphics cards. However, it was a new technology that came out, and if you were running an older series card, like a 10 series or older, then you were kind of left out where you didn't get access to DLSS because of the fact that you didn't have the tensor cores, which were responsible for specifically handling the DLSS functionality. One of the things that made people really kind of not consider AMD graphics cards for the longest time is the fact that first generation DLSS was a complete shit show. It was terrible, it was smudgy, it was blurry, it was ugly. But anything that's based on deep learning is going to take time to improve. DLSS 2.0 came out, and then that was a complete game changer. You can look at any comment on any video about graphics cards, and what you'll find is almost every single time, the reason why a person goes with NVIDIA these days is specifically because of DLSS, and AMD didn't have any sort of competing technology to give you that uplift in performance and that benefit to getting an AMD graphics card. Well, that's all changing today. So with AMD announcing its FSR, it's an entirely different approach to the way that the super sampling is happening here. NVIDIA has taken a deep learning approach, and it's something we started talking about 2-3 years ago regarding DLSS. And like I said, it's all based on machine learning. Now what's actually happening though with the machine learning is they're taking 16K still images from games, I mean hundreds of thousands if not millions of frames that are being submitted to them by the game developers that are utilizing the code and utilizing the instructions and stuff to generate these images. There is a collaboration here. They can't just take a game, have AI play it, and make sense of it. No, these are massive non-playable frames that are designed to give minute amounts of detail or stupid amounts of detail in various areas of the game where the AI can then just say, okay, here's where we can sort of fake it, and here's where we can just apply the filter And what they're doing is they're taking a smaller resolution or a lower resolution, and then they are upscaling it to a higher resolution where the graphics card is really only having to be responsible for the native resolution rendering, so whether it's 720p or 1080p, and then upscaling that to 1440p or upscaling that to 4K. You have a lot of behind the scenes back-end work that's being done to be able to generate that end image. And there's a lot of work that takes place before it ever makes its way into a title. That's why when DLSS first came out, it was terrible because it was still in the process of getting all the kinks worked out and getting those images rendered and just improving itself. And it's gotten there, it's doing great. However, like I said, AMD doesn't currently have deep learning or any sort of machine learning or AI happening on their hardware levels, or any massive supercomputer sitting in some vault somewhere that's doing all these calculations and all of this work. However, they've taken a completely different approach by using basically a filtering that's happening in real time on top of your images. Now, first and foremost, what makes this exciting about AMD is the fact that just like FreeSync, it is open technology. They're referring to it specifically as an open source. Now what they're doing, instead of taking giant 16K images and then using that to teach, I'm gonna knock this over, I swear. Instead of using that to teach the sampling how to do its job, they're taking the approach of, in real time, simultaneously scanning a linear and non-linear frame and the pixels, and then it's in a very high level term. I don't wanna get super deep. I'm sure Steve has a 65-minute video somewhere talking about this, where it basically will take both of those and then it will generate the sharpened image in real time, giving you a massive uplift in performance and also a massive fidelity increase to the image, all while also being rendered at a lesser resolution. So for instance, if you're running a 720p base image, you could get a 1440p, which is double the resolution of 720, and not even be able to tell the difference between the two. Now, just like DLSS, you're gonna get different levels of upscaling / sharpness and re-rendering of the frame. So you've got Ultra, which is gonna give you the sharpest image, and it's gonna give you the least amount of performance uplift. Now, everything's gonna always be a performance uplift over the rendered resolution versus the native resolution that's at the same. So a 4K rendered FSR or DLSS is going to be higher performance than native 4K having all the standard SS applied to it. So there's Ultra, there's Quality, there's Balanced, and then there's Performance. And just like you can imagine, each one of those reduces the overall sharpness and fidelity, but increases the performance. Now, Computex 2021, they had debuted this or demonstrated this with Godfall, and they showed that just by going from the native resolution to the Ultra resolution, they were able to get a 59% uplift in performance. And now obviously each time you step that down on the intensity, you're gonna get even more FPS, and they showed it went up to something as high as like 158 FPS in 4K, where they were getting 48 FPS or 49 FPS at 4K at native. So you can see that's a pretty massive uplift. But the biggest piece of news here is the fact that it's open means no longer is it only gonna be a technology available to these two guys right here. They're gonna support it all the way back to GTX 10 series and newer. So we're talking Pascal, probably still the most common and prevalent card found in graphics in CPUs or PCs these days. The Pascal series graphics card was extremely popular. It had a massive amount of performance uplift over the 700 series, the 900 series, and the fact that it was efficient, it was quiet, it was everything everyone had hoped that it would be. But regarding AMD, they're going all the way back to RX 500. Not RX 400, I'm not sure why, because those are very similar architectures. However, they're saying RX 500, RX 5000, obviously RX 6000, and GTX 10 series. But imagine this, you've got your 10 series graphics card, you've been trying to update your graphics, and you can't get yourself a 6000 series GPU or a 20 series even for that matter, let alone 30 series. So you can't take advantage of any of this great DLSS that you've seen forever. Well, now comes AMD kind of being the savior, saying not only are we gonna support this on our own graphics cards, we're gonna support this on NVIDIA graphics cards with 10 series and higher. So that already makes them look like the hero. Anything that gives you a fidelity increase and a performance increase is already going to make your brand that much more incentivizing or enticing. But to say we're going to support the competition as well is something that we have rarely, if ever, seen NVIDIA truly do. In fact, NVIDIA has really locked their DLSS down to cards that have the hardware level tensor cores. So I just like we saw with ray tracing, where they said ray tracing wasn't really going to be possible, or at least real-time ray tracing wasn't really possible in anything older than a 20 series graphics card. They did eventually open it up to Pascal, and we saw that the performance was pretty terrible. But whether or not that was just designed to show you, like, here's why you need a new graphics card because of RT cores doing all of this, it really is interesting to see how DLSS with tensor cores that's matured is going to compare to first generation FSR on AMD graphics, as well as supported on 10 series and up. Now, the thing about the games that it's going to support, just like we saw with DLSS when it first came out, it was terrible. Not many games supported it. It took time for developers to adopt it. Remember, you had to get the SDK, the developer kit. You couldn't just take an old game and then plug in this code and have an old game suddenly be ray tracing and DLSS. That's not something that happens. And there's a plethora of reasons why you can't do that, which means that there has to be, obviously, in development, a point at which you approach your game developers and say, here's something we're working on. Are you interested in incorporating this in the game you're working on? And then from that moment forward is where you start to see it incorporated. So Godfall was the title that they showed. I've personally never heard of Godfall. I don't know if that's like a indie title or a AAA title or whatnot. AMD's kind of known for going after the weird titles sometimes when they debut this stuff. Remember Ashes of the Singularity when it came to asynchronous compute? A title that no one's really ever played. It's just been a benchmark and nobody would have ever heard of the game if they didn't even use it for benchmarking purposes. But they are saying June 22nd is when FSR is going to officially launch, and they currently have 10 game developers that are on board. So I'm not sure which studios those are, but if you can get the big ones in there, if you could get Toybox in there and you can get Unreal, you've got CryEngine for things like Crysis and other games use CryEngine as well. But if you can get these major engines and these major developers on board with this, then this is kind of a game changer. Cyberpunk was one of those titles that was only playable because of DLSS, if you want to know the truth. I mean, it was a fun game, but if we've built systems here with AMD graphics cards, and we've got NVIDIA and AMD graphics cards in use full-time in the studio. Cyberpunk wasn't very fun on AMD. I mean, it played well, but you had to turn so many settings down just because of the fact that the game was designed with other technologies in mind, like DLSS and the RT cores. So being able to see that game got updated later to really take better efficiency and a better calculation approach when it comes to AMD hardware, we saw an uplift in performance with RT on AMD. And if now we can see FSR make its way into that title with AMD graphics cards and we have a more level playing field, then that only shows how dedicated AMD is going to be to the gaming community, which is something we've seen over the last 5 years that's made me really kind of turn back into an AMD believer in what they're bringing to the table. So anyway, I just wanted to share this talking head with you guys about what's coming. It's something software related, and it might be sort of a godsend for some of you that can't get new graphics cards. You might get the performance that you would have seen with a new graphics card by flipping a switch now. Because sometimes the performance we see with some of these technologies like DLSS and FSR now give you as much uplift as a generational improvement of the graphics card by itself. And if there's no noticeable fidelity loss, then that's just a win. Sure, we like the new stuff, but if you can't buy it and you can get more FPS now out of it with titles that are going to start utilizing this, then that's great. Especially if you're on a non-20 series or up card for NVIDIA, then you might get DLSS level performance, and they're kind of being bold here and saying that they believe this is a better, more efficient approach than DLSS that can get it in the hands of more gamers, more developers, and a better image quality with better uplift is what they're saying. So that's bold. And I don't think you make a statement like that against a monster like NVIDIA unless you can back it up. So hopefully they can. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching this Talking Head video. Hope this gives you guys a little bit of something to look forward to here in the future. June 22nd is when it's officially launching. And as soon as we find titles that it launches with, hopefully mainstream like AAA titles, then you can expect us to definitely do some performance testing to see what the real world uplift is, not by just using those titles that are kind of cherry picked to give you the best looking performance. Anyway, guys, that's it for today. Thanks for watching. Don't forget about our giveaway. Link is down below. And as always, we will see you guys in the next one.